I think that we need in this society a commitment to not, I don't think the civil rights and all that was just to protect this particular category. I think we need to just make a commitment of not allowing employer discrimination and leave it at that.
And again, it's just something that makes sense. We are who we are. As soon as we try to adjust who we are, as soon as we try to cover something up, a part of us that's an integral and essential part of us, then we're wasting our energies dealing with things that are not productive. One's sexual orientation has absolutely no bearing on one's opportunity, one's ability, I should say, to do their job, and to do their job quite well. Get past the mundane, get past the foolishness, get past things that have no meaning. If someone's work speaks for itself, they should be judged upon the merit of their work.
I know quite a few that have lost their jobs because of it. The problem is they always buried it in something else. There's a teacher in Milford for many years that was there, closeted for years and years, but he had like 20 years in. The school had already said that they wouldn't allow him, that his efficiency was low. So here's the teacher 20 years in, he now needs support, and the school board says, well, your efficiency isn't good. You know, only because he was openly gay. You see this quite often. One of the things that I love the unions for is they will not allow that to happen in a union shop. They will fight for their LGBT people, and I've got to respect it. But so many jobs, it's that, I know at least a dozen that have said, everything was good for 5-10 years, but when I came out, all of a sudden I was getting bad reports.
A lot of people don't realize, but I'm particularly concerned about our transgender, people who are transgender in our society right now. Right now they can be legally discriminated against in terms of jobs. And that inability to find employment is just devastating for any group of people, on top of all the other problems they face.
I was recently in DC lobbying for a fully inclusive ENDA, and in Jackson County, those who are familiar with the situation there know that we have experienced what happens without ENDA, and we've seen there a very public firing of a professor for being transgender, for being who she is. And as a religious organization, I have to say that I do believe that there should be a religious exemption to ENDA, because I believe in the separation of church and state. I believe that I shouldn't have to hire a hate monger. And I believe that sadly, religions that don't accept lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people have the right not to hire them. But when it comes to institutions that are not religious, that doesn't apply anymore. And that this should be a protected category for non-discrimination, because I have seen so many people in our community fired because of their gender identity or sexual orientation, not because of who they were as workers or the quality of their work. And as a state, we can't afford to be firing good workers and keeping poorer ones in the workforce just because we want to discriminate more. And some people think that this is gonna in some way hurt businesses. And the truth is, it doesn't hurt businesses. It protects businesses by giving them an out to say, no, you know what, I'm not firing this good worker. I'm gonna keep this good worker because I have to. And if they're feeling pressure from someone in their company to fire someone because of sexual orientation or gender or identity, they know that they can't. And so it protects the employees. And the truth is that many employers, major companies in Michigan have an ENDA in place themselves, or that is fully inclusive, or they support it. And that includes our automobile manufacturers, that includes Dow Chemical, that also includes the unions. And how often do you get the automobile industry and the unions agreeing? And that just shows you it's common sense. Non-discrimination in the workforce is common sense.
There's 31 states, including Michigan, that can openly discriminate against you based on your sexual orientation. There's 39 that can openly discriminate against you based on your gender identity or expression, and that's just wrong. It's unjust, and this is a matter of what I consider civil and economic justice. It's about job security, being able to provide for your family, and not being able to get basically fired because of a capricious reason by your employer.
I'm not really out at work. I mean, if somebody were to ask me, I'd probably tell them, but I don't really talk much about my personal life at work. But it's kind of sad because, I mean, other people, they're able to talk about what they do on the weekends with their girlfriends and their spouses, and I don't really talk about that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm a little bit more vague.
A part of what I do as an MCC pastor is to empower the members of my congregation to come out, to be the people that God has created them to be. And they want to do that. And they know in their heart of hearts that God created me to be this person that I am, whether I am straight, I'm gay, I'm bi, I'm trans, I'm queer. This is the person who God created me to be. And they're comfortable being out in church, and very often they're comfortable being out in their neighborhoods, but they're not comfortable being out at work. They're so afraid of losing their jobs that they do not share honestly about how they spent their weekend.
I think that sometimes we do some self-censoring. I know some people say, well, I'm just not out at work. It's because in their gut, they know if they were.
Try and exercise someday. The next time you go to work and someone asks you how you spent your weekend, try to tell them the truth without mentioning your partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, significant other, or your family. And see how far you get before you have to lie.
I worked someplace for years where, what'd you do over the weekend? Oh, I stayed home. I could not do that.
Queer people in the workplace are put in a position where they have to be concerned about losing their job if they slip up.
Fair that even today, depending not where I work, but there are places that I could go in, and even if I was perceived as being gay, that I couldn't be hired, that I could be fired if I came out and talked about it, that you don't have those protections. That's just incredible to me. That's just mind-boggling because, if nothing else, isn't one of your basic rights to be able to earn a living and to work, and also to be safe in your workplace, because there's many people, because you have to live closets and stuff, there's a lot of violence that happens in workplaces because of it. So ENDA is long past due.
Imagine not being able to go to your congressperson and say, these issues are important to me. Because if it gets back to the organization through whom you're employed, you might lose your job. Imagine having to choose between being the person you're really intended to be and lying about that. And think about what that lesson teaches our children.